So the MIT program has been a very long-running, very successful program, and that's how we like everyone to think about it. But the reality is, of course, that we often will tell folks, if there's a mistake you can make, we've probably made it. And I think one of the things that we've done that has helped us be successful despite the barriers is, and I think this is really important, to be very open about the mistakes that you make. And to be very open with your community and your stakeholders that you don't actually know everything to begin with. Because if you try and tell people you know everything and that you've solved all the problems in advance, and you go through kind of the processes of trying to get it approved, say at your school board level or your state level, your district level, whatever it might be, and try and say we're going to work all of this out in advance, you'll never actually get there. It's kind of like new parents saying, I'm ready to be a parent. I know everything I need to know to be a parent. Let's go have a child and raise this kid and it'll be great, right? You have to learn on the fly and you've got to be ready for that. And I think setting that groundwork is really important. Over the years, I think one of the things that we found continues to be and really is the heart of the program. And so you could say on one hand, it's the heart of the program. It's one of our strengths, but it's also one of our greatest weaknesses, has been professional development. And not professional development just for the teachers, but to remember that there's professional development for your leaders, for your technicians, your technology folks. There's professional development for your policymakers and legislators. So all of those various stakeholder groups need to be constantly informed and educated to keep moving forward, because technology doesn't sit still. And so just when you think you've caught up, another startup creates another social networking tool that has to be dealt with. And so, having professional development in the mix is really important, but it is still one of our barriers or challenges, particularly given the complexities of scaling professional development and trying to reach everybody, because educators are busy, policymakers are busy, school leaders are busy, and trying to find the time to fit those things in and reach consensus, reach understanding. I think those are some of the biggest challenges we always face, is keeping up with the constancy of change. I think that in general, one of the other challenges that we saw very early on was this notion of not reinventing the wheel. And I see a lot of new startup programs struggle with this, where they say, oh, well, if we're going to give every student a device, we need a policy on social media and this instant messaging and or chatting or whatever the communication mode might be of the day. And in fact, classroom teachers forever have been dealing with engagement of kids and whether or not the kids are passing notes. So maybe you don't need a policy there. I think the last thing I would mention here would be this notion of what we often refer to as apps. Everyone knows what an app is, right? Apps, APPS. It stands for Adult Paradigm Paralysis Syndrome, right? It's when we as adults take our paradigm and our understanding and our worldview and try and apply it to these systems, when in fact, remember, the prime user of the system might be 12 years old. Their worldview is completely different. The way they think about things is completely different. What they're doing with their device is completely different than the things you're doing. And so making sure that we don't apply our own adult paradigm paralysis into the system and unnecessarily complicate the system, right? So some of the greatest fears I think people had about the program when it began were things like kids are going to break the computers, they're all going to get stolen, kids are going to be constantly off task, or going to inappropriate content, or all these different things. And 12 years later, I think, sure, things like that have happened, but they're not systemic issues. They're not the things that really cause the most pain. I think most teachers, if you talk to them and you ask them, what are the greatest challenges, those aren't going to be the things that come out of their mouth. They're going to be talking about things like professional development and trying to be able to get enough support to kind of think about how to incorporate the new technology of the day, or thinking about just simply the simple challenges of teaching. How do I do assessment in this new world, right? Many teachers now, instead of assigning a particular task, everyone write me a paper, instead it's, kids, this is the learning outcome that we're trying to achieve. Make me a product that shows me you learned this. And it might be the student writes a paper, another student records a podcast, someone else makes a movie. So then the question is, how do I assess this to know that the kid has actually demonstrated this? Different kinds of challenges, but exactly the kinds of challenges you want teachers to have, right? Or at least those are the conversations we want them having, talking about learning, talking about assessment, about pedagogy, not about technology, not about the worst case scenarios.